How to build mental resilience. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Dear friends, welcome to a moment that will forever divide your life into two distinct chapters. Before you discover the science of mental resilience, and after you mastered the art of becoming psychologically unbreakable. Today, you are not just attending another motivational presentation. You are embarking on a scientifically structured journey through a proven psychological framework that will systematically transform how you think about challenges, setbacks, and incredible power that lies dormant within your mind. This sequence has been used to persuade nations, inspire more movements, and change individual lives across the globe. Right now, in this very moment, you possess the same neural architecture that enabled Helen Keller to overcome blindness and deafness, to become one of the history's most influential advocates. You have the same psychological raw material that allowed the Apostle Paul to write his most joyful letters from prison cells. The same capacity for mental transformation that turned Oprah Winfrey's childhood trauma into a platform for healing millions pulses through your consciousness at this very second. But here is what most people never understand. Mental resilience isn't a personality trait you are born with or without. It is not genetic or destiny or divine favoritism. Mental resilience is a systematic skill, is a skill set that can be developed, strengthened, and mastered through specific proven methodologies that we'll explore together over the next minute. Are you ready to systematically build the mental resilience that will make you virtually unshakable? Let's begin this scientific transformation of your inner world. These are achieved in stages. Stage 1, the crisis of fragile mind. Picture this moment in your mind. It is 2:47 a.m. and you are lying awake, staring at the ceiling, your mind racing with worries about tomorrow's perspection, about tomorrow's presentation, next month's bills, or that conversation you would need to have. Your heart is pounding not from psychological exertion, but from the seeing weight or the sheer weight of uncertainty pressing down on your chest. You are exhausted, but sleep won't come because your mind has become your own worst enemy, replaying every possible scenario of failure. This scene plays out in millions of bedrooms across the world every single night. But here is what will capture your attention completely. The difference between those who lie awake, consumed by anxiety, and those who sleep peacefully despite facing identical challenges has nothing to do with their circumstances. It has something to do with their level of mental resilience. Consider the night before David faced Goliath. While the entire Israelite army cowered in their tents, paralyzed by fear of giants, David slept soundly, not because he faced less danger, he faced more, not because he had superior weapons, he had none. David rested peacefully because he possessed something more powerful than armor or swords. Unshakable mental resilience rooted in proven victories and unwavering faith. The statistics should shock you into full attention. According to the American Psychological Association, 75% of adults report experiencing moderate to high levels of stress, with 45% lying awake at night due to stress. The World Health Organization reports that anxiety disorders affect 264 million people globally, making it the most common mental health condition on earth. Depression impacts over 280 million people worldwide, with rates increasing by 25% since the COVID-19 pandemic began. But here is what will grab your attention even more powerfully. These statistics don't represent inevitable human suffering. They represent a massive crisis of underdeveloped mental resilience skills in our society. Every single person struggling with overwhelming stress, crippling anxiety, or paralyzing depression has the same neural capacity for resilience as those who thrive under pressure. Michael Jordan's attention-grabbing revelation illustrates this perfectly. The man widely considered the greatest basketball player of all time was cut from his high school football pitch team. That night, he went home and cried. But here is what separated Jordan from the thousands of other teenagers who were also cut off from their high school football teams. Jordan used the moment of rejection not as evidence that he was not good enough, but as fuel to develop the mental resilience that would make him a legendary. The Apostle Paul provides perhaps the most attention-grabbing example of mental resilience in recorded history. Beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned, and constantly threatened with death, Paul wrote from prison, "I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any situation." This is recorded in Philippians chapter 4, verses 11 to 12. Paul's circumstances were objectively terrible, but his mental resilience transformed suffering into strength. Sarah Buckley, founder of Spanex and the world's youngest self-made female millionaire, captures attention with her unique relationship with failure. Her father taught her to celebrate failures at the dinner table, asking her and her brother to share their failures of the day and explaining what they learned. This unconventional approach developed such powerful mental resilience that Buckley faced over 100 rejections from manufacturers before creating a billion-dollar empire. The most attention-grabbing truth of all of this is, right now, at this very moment, your brain is completely capable of developing the same level of mental resilience that has enabled these extraordinary individuals to transform challenges into triumphs. The neural pathways exist. The psychological capacity is present. The only question is whether you will develop these capacities or continue living at the mercy of your circumstances. Neuroscientist Dr. Rick Hanson's research reveals that our brains have a negative bias. Thereby, naturally wired to focus on threats and problems rather than opportunities and solutions. This was useful when humans faced physical predators, but in our modern world, this same writing creates unnecessary psychological suffering. The attention-grabbing news is that neuroplasticity allows us to literally rewrite our brains to develop resilience patterns that override this default programming. Your attention should be completely captured by this reality. You are not stuck with the level of mental resilience you currently possess. You are not defined to repeat the patterns of stress, worry, and overwhelm that may have characterized your past. Your brain is remarkably adaptable, and the specific strategies we will explore today can systematically upgrade your mental operating system. The time has come to stop accepting mental fragility as normal and start building the unshakable inner strength that is your birthright as human, being capable of extraordinary resilience. Let's look at the devastating cost of mental fragility. Now that I have your complete attention, we must confront an uncomfortable but essential truth. The absence of mental resilience is not a mere inconvenience. It is a devastating force that systematically destroys dreams, relationships, health, and human potential on a massive scale. The need for mental resilience isn't optional. It is urgent, critical, and absolutely essential for anyone who refuses to live a life of quiet depression. Let me paint the stark reality of what happens when mental resilience remains underdeveloped. Every year, millions of talented individuals abandon their dreams not because they lack ability, resources, or opportunities, but because they lack the mental resilience to persist through inevitable challenges. Every day, countless relationships crumble, not because love has died, but because partners lack the resilience to navigate conflict constructively. Every moment, human potential worth billions of dollars in innovation, captivity, and problem-solving capacity is wasted because brilliant minds are paralyzed by fear, overwhelm, and have self-doubt. The biblical story of the Israelite spies illustrates this devastating cost perfectly. When 12 spies explored the promised land, they returned with reports of giants and insurmountable obstacles. Only two, Joshua and Caleb, possessed the mental resilience to see the same situation as an opportunity rather than a threat. The consequence? An entire generation wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, dying without ever experiencing the abundance that was available to them. Their lack of mental resilience cost them their destiny. Consider the crushing personal costs in your own life. Every time you have avoided a difficult conversation, you have paid the price in damaged relationships and unresolved conflicts. Every time you have procrastinated on important projects due to fear of imperfection, you have paid the price in missed opportunities and diminished self-respect. Every time you have chosen comfort over growth, you have paid the compound interest of regret that accumulates over years of unfulfilled potential. The economic cost of mental fragility is staggering. The American Institute of Stress reports the workplace stress costs that the workplace stress costs the U.S. economy over $300 million annually in the healthcare costs, missed work days, and decreased productivity. But these numbers only capture the visible costs. They don't account for the innovations never created, the businesses never started, the problems never solved because potential leaders were paralyzed by mental fragility. J.K. Rowling's story powerfully illustrates both the cost of mental fragility and the transformation possible through resilience. Before becoming one of the world's most successful authors, Rowling was a single mother living on welfare, battling with depression, and contemplating suicide. She later described this period as a rock bottom, but also as the solid foundation upon which she rebuilt her life. The cost of her mental fragility was nearly her life. The benefit of developing resilience was a literally empire that has touched millions of lives. The health costs are equally devastating. Chronic stress from lack of mental resilience creates inflammation in the body, suppresses immune function, increases risk of heart disease, contributes to diabetes, and accelerates aging at the cellular level. Dr. Eliza Opel's research on telomeres shows that chronic stress literally shortens your life by accelerating cellular aging. Mental fragility doesn't just make you feel bad, it kills you slowly. The relational costs may be the most heartbreaking of all. When we lack mental resilience, we become needy, reactive, and emotionally volatile partners, parents, friends, and colleagues. We drain others instead of energizing them. We create chaos instead of calm. We spread anxiety instead of confidence. Our mental fragility becomes a burden that our loved ones carry, creating ripple effects of stress through our family systems and social networks. Oprah Winfrey courageously shared how her childhood trauma could have defined her entire life trajectory. The abuse, neglect, and poverty she experienced created patterns of low self-worth and self-destructive behavior that followed her into young adulthood. The cost was nearly her life and definitely her potential. Only through developing extraordinary mental resilience was she able to transform her wounds into wisdom and her pain into purpose. The career cost compound over time like negative interests. Every portion you don't pursue because you fear rejection. Every business idea you don't act on because you doubt your capacity. Every leadership opportunity you decline because you are afraid of criticism. These decisions create a career trajectory far below your actual potential. Mental fragility doesn't just limit what you achieve. It limits what you become. Consider the story of Moses, who initially resisted his calling to lead the Israelites out of Egypt because he lacked confidence in his speaking ability. His mental fragility nearly caused him to forfeit one of history's most significant leadership opportunities. It took divine intervention that his brother Aaron's support to help Moses develop the resilience necessary to fulfill his purpose. The generational costs may be the most tragic aspect of underdeveloped mental resilience. Parents who lack emotional regulation pass anxiety and stress patterns to their children. Adults who haven't learned to handle setback model defeat rather than resilience for the next generation. Mental fragility becomes an inherited cause or curse that limits family potential for generations. The spiritual costs cut deepest of all. When we lack mental resilience, we will lose touch with our deepest values, our authentic levels, and our connection to purpose greater than immediate comfort. We become reactive rather than proactive, driven by fear rather than guided by love, focused on problems rather than possibilities. Steve Jobs faced this spiritual crisis during his firing from Apple, the company he had founded. He described it as devastating, but later realized it was exactly what he needed to develop the resilience that would enable him to create Pixar, return to Apple, and ultimately revolutionizing multiple industries. The temporary cost of failure became the foundation for unprecedented success. The urgency of this need cannot be overstated. Every day you delay developing mental resilience is another day of living below your potential, another day of unnecessary suffering, another day of missed opportunity that will never return. The good news is that, unlike many problems that require external resources or other people's cooperation, building mental resilience is entirely within your control and can be begun immediately. The need is clear, urgent, and absolute. You must develop mental resilience not just to succeed, but to become the person you are capable of being, and to live in the life that is waiting for you on the other side of your current limitations. Let's look at systematic solution to mental resilience. Now that we have established the critical need for mental resilience, I want to provide you with a comprehensive, scientifically backed solution that has been proven effective across cultures, circumstances, and centuries. This isn't theory, it is a systematic approach that has enabled ordinary individuals to achieve extraordinary resilience and create remarkable results in their lives. The solution is what I call the fortress method. These are 7 interconnected categories that create an unshakable foundation of mental resilience. Like a medieval fortress with multiple layers of defense, each component strengthens the others, creating a comprehensive system of psychological protection and empowerment. Let's look at F, which is faith-based foundation building. The first element of our systematic resolution involves building a foundation of faith. Not necessarily religious faith, though that can be powerful, but faith in your ability to handle whatever comes. Faith in the meaningful nature of existence, and faith that challenges that challenges serve as purpose in your development. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and founder of logotherapy, discovered this principle in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. In Nazi concentration camps, he observed that those who survived weren't necessarily the physically strongest, but those who maintained faith in meaning, purpose, and their own capacity to endure. As insight, those who have the why to live can bear with almost anything. How? Because the foundation for helping millions develop psychological resilience. The biblical figure Job exemplifies faith-based resilience perfectly. When he lost his wealth, health, and family, his wife told him to curse God and die. Instead, Job declared, "Though he slay me, yet I will trust in him." That is in Job chapter 3, verse 15. His faith wasn't based on circumstances, but on an unshakable belief in ultimate meaning and purpose. This faith foundation enabled him to endure tremendous suffering and unlimited experience restoration. To build your faith-based foundation, practice the meaning-making exercise daily. For every challenge you face, ask yourself, how might this experience be preparing me for something greater? This isn't naive or optimism. It is sophisticated reframing that builds faith in the purposeful nature of your experience. O, look at O. O is optimal mindset mastery. The second element involves mastering what psychologist Carol Dweck calls the growth mindset. The belief that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. This mindset creates a love of learning and resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. Michael Jordan embodied optimal mindset mastery through his career. When cut from his high school basketball team, he didn't accept this as evidence of his limitations, but as information about areas for improvement. His famous quote, "I have failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed," reflects a mindset that transforms failures into fuel for growth. The Apostle Paul demonstrated this principle in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Paul understood that mental resilience begins with conscious control over thought patterns. Practice though auditing by regularly examining your internal dialogue. Replace limiting thoughts like "I can't handle this" with empowering alternatives like "I am learning how to handle this." Small shifts in mental language create massive changes in resilience over time. Let's look at R. R is relational resilience network. The third element recognizes that resilience is built within community, not in isolation. Strong relationships provide emotional support, different perspectives, practical assistance, and accountability that dramatically increase your capacity to handle challenges. Nelson Mandela's 27 years in prison could have broken him, but he understood the power of connection. Even in harsh conditions, he built relationships with fellow prisoners, maintained correspondence with supporters, and even developed peaceful relationships with some guards. These connections sustained his spiritual and kept him connected to his larger purpose. The early Christians exemplified relational resilience, gathering regularly to encourage one another and share resources. Hebrews chapter 10 verses 24 to 25 instructs believers to consider how we may spur one another all on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, but encouraging one another. Build your relational resilience network by identifying 3 categories of people. Build your mentor relational resilience network by identifying 3 categories of people: mentors who guide your growth, peers who provide encouragement and accountability, and those who can mentor, which strengthens your own resilience through service. T is transformational stress management. We shall look at transformational stress management in the next episode. Therefore, go to the next episode.